We'll call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals. Would you please stand for the pledge? Jerry, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Call a roll, please.
Keith Bratcher.
Here.
Joe Crowell.
Here.
Gary Sartain.
Here.
Joe Machoto.
Here.
Michael Rather. Jared Barrett.
Here.
Dane Cantrell.
Present.
We have a quorum.
All regular members are present and will be voting tonight. You have the minutes of the last meeting before you. Are there any changes or additions to the minutes? Have a motion that be approved. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. They are approved. Let me welcome each of you here to the Board of Zoning and Appeals, and let me give you a little background on the rules that we will be following tonight. As there will be a 3-minute limit on the time that each person can come up and speak. Please stay on the subject of what the proposal would be, and we only have one tonight. If you hear about the other one, the farm, the solar farm, it is delayed until next month. The also over in the corner to my right, to your left, there's a roster. We ask that you sign in and give us your address. And those of you that will be speaking, if you'll come to that side and do that in the same order that you would be speaking. We need that record. And that will be at the public hearing time. Now, we will have a report from our staff on each item that comes before the board. After that, we'll ask those people who are proposing something to come to the podium. They would be the first here. They will come to the podium, sign in with their address, then they will have 3 minutes to speak to the board about their proposal. Now, there may be questions. The board may have some questions for you, so be prepared for those questions. First item of business we have is a request by Dorsey Meeks. And what do you have on that, please?
Thank you, Chairman Cantrell. Application 2013-51 is a request filed by Dorsey Meeks, and it's a special exception request for the establishment of a boarding house with office area and variance relief from the development standard requiring a fire hydrant within 1,000 feet of a proposed development. This property is located in the RL low-density residential zone. The property is 8.54 acres. There's an existing single-family home and garage and an additional detached structure that's already located on the property. And the applicant's plan is to provide housing for displaced persons, as you read in the staff report and in the charter documents that were supplied by the applicant. It gave a detailed description of what they were proposing to do, and this was to operate a temporary housing for displaced persons to assist in mental health recovery, to assist in addiction support and recovery, to assist in recovery from physical and or sexual abuse, and to generally engage in any other lawful endeavor or activity in furtherance of the foregoing purposes. The applicant initially started speaking with staff back in March, and we were trying to determine what type of classification this use would fall under, especially under our new zoning ordinance. And in discussions with the applicant, they were not, this facility would not be regulated by the state. We contacted the state representatives, and after speaking with the applicant, Dorsey Meeks, they indicated to him that the use for this facility would be classified as a boarding house in the state rules. And this is a special exception. In most residential districts, it's considered a semi-permanent residential use. It's not permitted by right in any district that we have in our zoning scheme, whether it's commercial or residential. The existing residence would be converted into office area and common area that will be used for classes. The existing garage will be converted to common area. They'll have a fitness room, and it'll be a common eating area as well. Initially, the applicant plans to construct 3 small cabins that can house up to 2 persons in the cabins. They have actually spoken with the Department of Environment and indicated or located enough soils for 3 additional cabins. The applicant also plans, in regards to fire protection, there is not a fire hydrant within 1,000 feet of the proposed the development, and even though the use is residential and the cabins will be used for residential purposes, the existing single-family home will be converted and its use will become non-residential as well as the garage. Therefore, that requirement for fire protection kicks in. They have a plan to use an existing pond to help with fire protection, and the pond will be repaired and filled, and that the operation of that pond and how it's designed for fire protection would be determined during the site plan review process when the applicant actually submits for that approval. We have received multiple phone calls, in excess of 20, in opposition of the request. We actually received 1 call in favor of the request. Now, the use itself, even though it's a boarding house primarily, the existing residential home that's converted into common area will also serve for those people needing to attend classes or counseling or any types of activities that the Embers organization plans to offer. So in addition to the residents that will be living there, you will also be generating traffic from non-residents attending the site for services. Staff has expressed some concerns in regards to the rural nature of this area, the residential uses, and the introduction of this slightly more intensive use in this neighborhood. And we have expressed that in our staff report. I'm just going through photos of the site and the surrounding area. This is existing home. These are elevations of what the cabins they are planning to build will look like. And the applicant supplied us with a site plan, and I labeled it so you could see the headquarters and the recreation room are in the existing buildings. There will be a stage that's located behind that structure that will be used for fundraisers that will be held on the property, as well as some of the educational services that they will offer. They plan to place a driveway for phase 2, and that is probably contingent upon the location of additional soil areas. The blue area here that you see is the existing pond. That is a part of their fire protection plan. And the 3 small orange structures, I don't know what color they're showing up on that screen, those represent the residential cabins that they plan to build. And we posted a sign on the property and notified residents within 500 feet, and that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this request? If you'll come around to the podium, please don't forget to sign in as you come around. The sign-in's over here. Mr. Meeks, do you want to be a part of this too? Yeah, come on around. you have other things you'd like to share with the board?
Yes, sir. Respectfully, I think it's going to take more time than 3 minutes for me to present what I have, and I would
Okay, go ahead.
request a little more
We'll
time.
see.
And before I speak, I would just like to say this, that I hope no one plans on slandering anybody here, and everybody hopes to keep it civil, because that is accountable.
Speak into the microphone where we can all hear you.
And I would also hope that no one, and we don't either, plans to abridge me nor Mr. Meeks' constitutional, civil liberties, or freedom of speech. And everything Mr. Meeks or I have to say is pertinent to this meeting.
My name is Dorsey Meeks. I've been a resident of Rutherford County since 1969. I've lived on 13702 Versailles Road for 14 years, at which time I bought a house that was over 100 years old, dilapidated, an eyesore of the community. Over the course of the last 14 years, I worked on that house every day, remodeling and redoing that house. And a lot of the neighbors tell me what a great job that's been done. This property is my Garden of Eden, as I'm sure your property is yours. But just as in the original Garden of Eden, there's a serpent entered our neighborhood that is running around at night, belly crawling, illegally depositing unsigned letters in people's mailboxes, which is being federally investigated as we speak, because that is a federal crime. Also, you know, the serpent wouldn't sign those letters, so anybody with any intelligence at all would know that an unsigned letter and nobody backing it up, though it probably is a lie being spread.
Mr. Dorsey, I don't mean to be rude here
Good.
and cut you
I
short,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Listen to me.
Yes, sir.
Listen carefully,
Yes, sir.
okay? Please stick to the request that you have here, okay?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
We'll call this meeting over with unless you do. We're not getting into the neighborhood fights. Please stick to the request.
Excuse me then. My daughter, I guess, will have to address the rest of this, because I felt like I needed to address these lies that's been spread about me. I have the right to do that.
Not at this public forum. Sir, you'll have to do that. Call your own public forum for that. Please stick to the subject if you'd like to speak to that.
Anything else I can add that is to the subject then? Maybe my finances, which is nobody's business.
Please
as far as me
speak
taking
into
money,
the microphone,
which is
Mr.
nobody's-
Dorsey. Speak into the microphone where we can hear you.
Yes, as far as my relatives making money, if you read our charter, that's not possible. It's not allowed under our charter to pay anybody. It's all volunteer work, all of it. And as far as me taking money and needing it out of Embers Inc., I don't need it. I've worked all my life. I'm not bragging, but I'm financially secure. I worked every day. And as far as property values, me bringing those down in that neighborhood, I'd like to tell you, when I walk down that road, there's a lady housing her mother in a storage shed with illegal plumbing and code violation after code violation. I see a gentleman's truck with a tree growing out of it that's 20 years old. When I first come around the corner, I see 4 homeless people living in a camper for the last 4 years without any sewerage, right next door to me. They dump their buckets out on the neighbor's property when they leave. And I see falling down barns and sheds everywhere. I see dilapidated fences where just a few months ago a mule got out and somebody had an accident, but nobody claimed the ownership of that mule, but we know who it is. We know whose mule that was, don't we, folks?
Mr. Dorsey,
Yes,
could
ma'am.
I?
Yes, sir.
May I ask?
ramble, and I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
But Mr. David Jones, the Director of Codes, is going to address all of these codes violations as he's going to address me. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. That's how it works. And I'd really like to address this one more thing, if I possibly could.
Yes, sir. Go
it's
ahead.
really important to me, and I think it's important to everybody else.
We do have a few questions we'd like to ask you when you
Yes,
finish.
sir. Could I go ahead and finish
Sure.
this? I want to address this family that's done more damage than the United States than all the wars combined. This family has caused the mothers and fathers to sell out their children so they could be like them right now. This is the most recognized family in the United States, folks. I hope you know who they are, but now it's none other than this damn Jones family.
Mr. Dorsey, we are on.
You'll never have as much
Mr.
as the
Dorsey,
Joneses. The minute you do, they're going to buy a bigger house,
Mr.
a bigger
Dorsey,
car, and
listen
look
to
nicer
me.
clothes.
Listen to me.
Excuse
We are on television.
God bless everybody
Okay.
tonight. Thank you. I hope I made my point.
Did you want to come back? I do have a couple of questions I'd like to ask. Okay? No, for your daughter. Thank you. Will there be any handicap residents? Do you have any plans for handicap residents in the buildings that you will be building there?
As far as handicap, if anybody requires any kind of clinical,
Where they're unable to get around very well.
no, if they're that handicapped, this will not be suitable for them.
Okay. There may be some other questions here from our board.
Is she going to give us a
Now,
presentation of what's going on? Okay.
About how many at one time do you plan on having there? Obviously,
now,
yeah.
if we
How
were
many
approved?
residents do you have?
We
Plans
have
for.
soil sites approved for 3 cabins, so that would mean 1 to 2 people in each cabin, so that's a maximum of 6 at this time.
Okay.
In the office,
Jerry, be sure and talk into the microphone.
we possibly have, off the top of my head, 4 spaces for office use.
So you're talking probably a dozen people on the property?
At any given time? Yes.
I got some
Joe?
questions.
Joe, turn your microphone on.
How are you going to get money to do this if you're not charging these people?
We don't need to charge these people. We are financially, Mr. Meeks is financially secure, and as we are designated by the U.S. government as a nonprofit 501c3, we are allowed to ask for donations and any type help within Rutherford County and outside Rutherford County. And we have, Mr. Meeks has been funding this himself, and that's how we're funding it. Does that answer your question?
So will you have something on site to try to collect money, or are you just doing it by mail or telephone or what?
Via telecommunications, mail, fundraising,
What do you mean by fundraising, such as what?
such as we hope to build a stage, because most nonprofits, most of their money that they bring in goes to have to rent places out to have their host their fundraisers and such. So we would like to have our fundraisers on site to
Okay,
help
thank you.
eliminate that. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay. Joe?
You're going to have, you say up to maximum 6 people could be living there.
Sir.
And who's going to be monitoring what's going on there if nobody's going to be in the main house?
Actually, would it be better if I give the presentation because it addresses some of these and then ask the questions? Because
I think we need to, we're pretty, we have a lot of information here already, so go ahead and answer the questions at the board.
repeat the question.
You finished? I'll wait till she's done with her presentation. Okay, go ahead. You have a short period of time.
Okay. I have a lot of information here, so let me go through it so I can shorten this here. As I said, we are recognized by the U.S. government as a nonprofit. I don't think that issue is up for a vote here today. Anybody is welcome to read our charter and all that on our website, or the government website. That's free for all. Okay, let me start over. I think I'm a little rattled here.
Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Heather Ann Brown. I live at Versailles Road. Can I just go through what I prepared?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Heather Ann Brown. I live at 13702 Versailles Road, Rockville, Tennessee. I think I addressed the constitutional and civil liberty issues, and that our government has recognized us as a nonprofit, and everybody is welcome to view that on the proper government websites. I'm happy to see that so many have taken the time to come here today to inform themselves on what we're offering instead of just going on speculation. It's difficult to word things to please everybody, so I hope I answer most questions here. I'd like to address that one statement in our charter, I believe, was to operate a temporary housing for displaced persons to assist in mental, addiction, physical, sexual abuses, and generally engage in any other lawful endeavor in furtherance of the foregoing purposes. This to us meant to further support people on their healthy, prosperous path after they have been through government-regulated programs which have been completed, and when they showed an active history in maintaining that path. Then they can come to us to help assist them in the next phases of maintaining a healthy, productive life, so they aren't just thrust back into whatever situation got them there to begin with. At this time, Embers Inc., according to our charter, uses only volunteers, and if you read the documentation we provided, we don't have any paid employees. Mr. Meeks had projected to have 3 cabins completed by December 2013, and as most projected construction timelines take longer, that will not be met. As incorporator of Embers, Mr. Meeks will continue to live in the main house, which has been designated as Embers headquarters, so he has oversight of said property. Mr. Meeks is going to pave the driveway. I don't feel that we will require parking lots, as that's not what would aesthetically blend into the property, and we take pride in the pristine nature of the land, and there wouldn't be enough people at any given time to support a parking lot, and this would be an eyesore. The headquarters will be used for intake of persons, and intake means it's where you assess people's needs, and we're not talking about just physically bringing people in. This can be done with the latest technology to eliminate traffic issues and crowding of people, and this can be done via Skype or telecommunications. We offer basic life skills and extracurricular activities that for whatever reason people might not have learned or might not have been afforded that opportunity, which could rob the public of the greatest leaders, maybe even the next president. These people at no cost, by appointment only, with the way I see it as room gives, only 6 people at a given time and day, would be possible to access for hands-on learning and services as applicable, and the rest, as I said, through the wonderment of technology, will be accessed via Skype. And that is through the computer, where they can sit at home and learn these things, or motivational classes, whatever. We will have an application process via mail and referral, with the said person coming onto the property only after their application has been approved, if applicable. They will have to have completed any and all rehab services at a government-regulated facility, rehab meaning physical and mental recovery, which is broad, to be eligible to live in a cabin temporarily till more permanent arrangements can be made. Embers Inc. is not meant to be a revolving door living facility, as there are nonprofit living facilities available to people within the community. Embers Inc. is here for that group of people that show an active movement to a productive, healthy lifestyle. Embers Inc. cannot possibly house everyone. That's why we will work in unison with other facilities to help place people, feed people, and educate people. Embers Inc. hopes to help end hunger in Rutherford County, to provide food to persons in the community that don't have adequate daily nutrition. The fact that there is anyone here in Rutherford County going without food is really a disgrace to us all. I think we stated that the master bathroom at Embers Inc., it is a connecting bath-bedroom combo for the incorporator to live, again, and oversee the property, and I would think that would meet the general requirement guidelines for residential. If you read our narrative description, we're not talking about a revolving door of people. This is a living arrangement with guidelines, and we're not talking about 50 to 100 people. If we have 3 cabins, it's 6 people that have been selected and screened. To move forward after leaving Embers back into other areas to bring what they've learned to promote to others what we as a country may have forgotten, and that is promoting healthiness for ourselves and our neighbors and healthiness for this earth, or we are all destined to fail as communities, governments, and to destroy what gift we were given. What we're promoting is for all cultures to have a wake-up call and to rise above human nature and just ensure the longevity of our great species, this amazing planet with freedom, free of biasness for all. And I would like to say this, that in the footsteps of the great Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, and Jesus the man, I have a dream also. And if I heard and took to heart one thing that our president said this term, it was for all citizens to stand up and be accounted for. And that's exactly what Mr. Meeks and I are doing. On the explanation of the proposal design, people can access resources regardless of if they live there or not, and I think that was a concern for traffic. And we have proposed that, again, because of technology, that can be done via Skype and telecommunications. Our goal is to ensure that people in Rutherford County also know how to access services that Rutherford County offers to help them move forward, because we have resources available in Rutherford County that people don't know how to access or are not readily advertised. And we want to help those people access those services that taxpayers' dollars pay for. On fire safety, to my knowledge, it was initially zoned farmland that never supported fire hydrants. And to my knowledge, we are serviced by the Barfield Fire Department. That's quite a distance to travel. So Embers Inc. proposes to restore the fire pond as we and surrounding residents are at risk of fire damage due to no access to a fire hydrant. The fire pond will be a huge asset to the surrounding residents, as they too can access the fire pond through the fire department if there should be a fire at their residence. Again, the directors will reside on site to help ensure the property is ran correctly, and I don't think anybody can assume to know what our qualifications are in running that, and there will be volunteers to help ensure that it's run properly. And again, because of how we are deemed as our nonprofit, we have not been required to have government regulations. I think it is safe for the surrounding neighbors, and I don't think that we pose a great risk to the neighbors. One thing I'd like to address that I know is a concern, after researching and thinking about our area, and I won't address a lot of these things because I think that would be upsetting, I don't feel at this time that our neighborhood is safe for, I know a lot of people were concerned about abused women being housed there and possibly their spouses or their pimps coming and looking for them. And Mr. Meeks, his finances have allowed him to purchase mountainside property in a safer, cleaner environment to place these individuals, so I would like to put that rumor to rest. We are in actuality promoting a new way of life and thinking and a healthier way to live. And just to get people back to the basics of how to care for ourselves and the land, as we can see right now, the government can't. So you must learn to take care of yourselves and the land. And a lot of people were never taught these basic principles because their parents never taught them these things, and neither did our education system. I feel we are no impact or a low impact nonprofit that won't produce excess traffic. We already have businesses in our area that are bringing in excess traffic. And I would also like to add that I don't think that anything I've proposed, and if you have questions, would bring in any superfluous traffic.
Thank you. I appreciate you sticking with the subject here. Now, Joe, you had some questions here. Have they been answered? Jerry?
Yes, ma'am. The area is zoned low density, which means everything is spread out. And you've told us you're going to have 3 cabins, and you would hope to have 6. How is that going to mix with, how do you feel that's going to mix with the low density that's all around you, dropping in that amount of people in a subdivision?
Well, we already are.
That's what we're talking about today, is this use appropriate for this land?
I feel it's appropriate for the land as we're surrounded by residential houses, and we have 8.54 acres that run towards the back, and we've ensured to keep the land pristine and not clear cut it so we can tuck cabins in where they're not visible. When you drive by, this will not look like a business, and if you didn't even know that it was there, you wouldn't even know that it would not impact.
Okay, you had mentioned that you would want to do a stage where you could do fundraisers. What kind of activities would you do with the stage?
Concerts.
You don't think that would bother your neighbors?
Do I think that would bother our neighbors?
I'm just asking questions.
I don't feel that that would bother our neighbors. I mean, we would definitely let them know. I don't know if we would have to have a permit for that purpose, which if we had to have a permit, then if they turn us down, they turn us down.
Okay, I've answered my questions. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated now.
Thank you.
We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Now, I ask that you come around, sign in, and come to the podium and share your information with the board. For those of you who would like to speak, if you'll go ahead and come around at this time, you can go, sign in ahead of time, and that would save us a little time.
My name is Anthony Scales. I live on Longview and Versailles Road. My property is on Longview and Versailles Road. I'm speaking on behalf of the residents on Versailles community. Dorsey Meeks of 13702 Versailles Road has filed a special exemption with the zoning board for a nonprofit 501c3 Corporation to temporarily house and provide services for displaced individuals. Housing will be multiple cabins on the property on a rotating schedule of 6 months to a year. Other proposals for this cooperation, Emirates Incorporated, were stated as to assist in mental health recovery, assist in addiction support and recovery, assist in recovering from physical and/or sexual abuse, and so forth. Allowing Mr. Meeks to operate this cooperation on Versailles Road would negatively impact our community. With the increase of transit individuals in the area, the overall atmosphere of our community will be impacted by increased traffic. An opportunity for an increase in crime, such as DUIs due to addictions to alcohol or drug, violence, and burglary. The general feeling of safety and trust in the community would be affected. The property values in the area would decrease due to the stigma attached to our properties with this business nearby. We, the undersigned, are asking the zoning board to deny this exemption for a boarding house. Do not let this cooperation operate in our community. There are already agencies in place that are more qualified to assist these individuals with the severity of issues that are stated. And I've got a list of everybody in the community that is against this.
If you'll turn that in for the record, please. Wait just a minute. Are there any questions?
Where do you live in relation to the, I think my point quit.
Well, I'm not within the 500-yard radius of that. I'm a little farther down the road. I'm just a spokesman for the ones in the area.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you. You may be seated. Any others that want to speak, please come sign in.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Lisa Hayslip, and I do live within the 500 yards that we're talking about. There's Mr. Meeks and Ms. Brown's house, and then an empty lot, and then our house. So I am within that area.
Thank you.
I will very quickly, can you put my presentation up? Okay, next slide, please. Okay. I will very quickly address the current situation, the concerns, the inconsistencies, and the vagueness that I noted when I reviewed the documentation of Embers, Inc. Lastly, I'll give a recommendation. Next slide, please. Okay. I'm not going to go over this one. We've already addressed that the homeowner, Mr. Meeks and Ms. Brown, have requested they want to build a boarding house with an office out in a residential neighborhood. So I'll go to the next slide, please. Okay, here are the concerns. We've heard 3 times, I think, their charter, and the one concern I have is the very last bullet that's in red that says to generally engage in any other lawful endeavor or activity in furtherance of the foregoing purposes. That concerns me. I think that it leaves this very open for them to, it may start as a home for displaced persons, but it could end up as anything else. We're just not sure because that leaves it really open. I would like to commend Ms. Brown and Mr. Meeks. I think what they're trying to do is it's probably a good thing. I'm not sure it's a good thing for this neighborhood. They stated that they would perform background screening on all the applicants, and when I asked them about the screening process, they claimed that the Murfreesboro Police Department would be screening for them. After checking, the police department does not perform background checks for the public, so I'm very concerned about the screening process and the type of people that would be living there. Next slide, please. There were some inconsistencies in their documentation, ranging from the board member titles to the length of residency at the home. I've seen that they're a not-for-profit, but they're accepting donations and then they're charging for rent. All of this is highlighted and documented if you need to see that. At one point, they say that they'll have volunteers only, but then they say that they'll compensate reasonable amounts to agents and employees for services rendered. So I just think there's a lot of inconsistencies. The most important one, it says that the existing house will be for anyone within the community, but then at another place they say that the 8.5 acres will be fenced to keep people from accessing the property from surrounding areas. To me, those are some inconsistencies in their documentation. Next slide, please. There's some vagueness. I mentioned one already, the last bullet in their charter. They also referenced a couple times 10 to 20 buildings on site. The services provided, they don't really list the services. They said it's difficult to know what's going to be provided until the type of people that, they determine the issues of the people that will live there. As for how many people, they say this is hard to say. They're not sure because of codes. And then in reference to the pond, they say that they're proposing to dig out their pre-existing pond for a fire pond, but I guess to me the most important word in that section is propose. I'm not sure that they would do that. Next slide, please. Recommendation, I would request that the Rutherford County Board of Planning deny this applicant's request, as location is always a key factor in determining property value. Given the fact that Versailles Road is narrow and curvy, it's a narrow, curvy two-lane road with no shoulder, I think that traffic and parking is a concern. In addition, our lots on Versailles Road are very narrow and deep. I think someone alluded to that. So there are nearly 30 homes in the mile between Panther Creek and Link Road. So I'm not sure that this is the appropriate area for a boarding house like this. Again, I would like to commend Mr. Meeks and Ms. Brown. I think that they are proposing a good thing. I'm just not sure this is the right area. Land usually doesn't depreciate unless it's degraded by erosion, improper use, or zoning changes or special exceptions. And we know that surrounding homes, businesses, activities, noise, and the unsavory conduct of people living in or frequenting a neighborhood do decrease the value of that property. Again, I'm asking that you deny this request and avoid the external obsolescence of our property. Thank you.
Just a minute. Any questions? You may be seated. Next.
Brent Rogers. I live 3 houses down from Mr. Meeks. I have little kids. I just don't think this is a place that we need touched people that are confused, running around. My kids play with other kids. Who knows who's going to come around? We don't need that kind of trouble in our neighborhood. I think he's doing a wonderful job trying to help people, but I don't think we need it in our neighborhood. As far as the pond, I do know there's a pond way in the very back of the property, but up close to the property house that he's talking about, that's yard. So there's a whole lot of work with the pond deal going on there. If it'll hold water, that's a whole nother issue there. But I'm literally 200 feet from where the pond's going to be, where the mosquitoes is going to be, where one of the cabins is going to be. It's going to be an eyesore for me. It might not be for people driving down the road, but for me, I'm going to see it. They're talking about possibly 10 to 20 houses, 2 people per house. That's 40 people. They're going to have a lot of vehicles, no parking lot. I'm going to see all this. I moved out in the country to get away from the city setting, and here it is coming next door. So I hope that My opinion counts for something, and appreciate your time.
Any questions? Thank you. You may be seated.
My name is Alan Brown. I live on Versailles Road. I am outside of the 500, whatever, but I still live between Link Road and Panther Creek, so this would affect me. Part of the reason I moved to Versailles Road was I wanted a place where it would be just a single house with some property. I did not want houses surrounding me all over the place, and I thought I had found that here. Another thing I want to address is I'm a geologist. I have a bachelor's degree in geology and a master's degree in hydrogeology. And one of the things hydrogeologists deal with is sinkholes. And one of the reasons I particularly picked this street to live on is because it's full of sinkholes. There are sinkholes on my property. There are sinkholes to the property to the north of me. There are sinkholes to the property to the south of me. And I have not been on Mr. Meek's property, so I cannot say if there are any sinkholes on there. But the odds are definitely in the favor of there being sinkholes on that property. I have not seen the abandoned pond. Abandoned ponds is something that people could call sinkholes. So, just something to consider, especially when they're going to be putting up to 10, 20 buildings on a property. Has anybody inspected the property for sinkholes? Just something to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? May be seated.
Hi, my name is Ricky Lelu, and I live at 13620 Versailles Road. And I just want to emphasize that, it is a great thing that he is doing. I just do not feel it's right for our community. I don't feel it's safe for our children. My 12-year-old son is here today. He's concerned for his safety. If someone is to wander upon our property, what is he to do? How does he react? I'm concerned about the traffic. Also, they're not qualified to know whether these people are off their medications or on their medications, so then therefore they become a danger to the community. I just really, we searched long and hard to live somewhere, to get out of the city, to get away from all of that, and to have some land, and for it to be exactly what it is, a rural area, and it's not going to be that anymore if they do this. And our property values are going to drop, because if I were going to buy in that neighborhood and knew that that was there, it would deter me from buying there, because you move out there to be away from all of that. And it's pretty much all I have to say. I'm very concerned for the safety of my children and the other children in the neighborhood. We talked to our neighbors, and I didn't realize how many kids are within the 500 feet. There's probably a good 10 to 15 kids. And, they're not going to feel comfortable to go out, into their yards, wondering if someone's going to walk upon, ask them, talk to them. You just don't know. And I just don't feel it's safe.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any questions?
Afternoon, folks. My name's Ron Williams. I live at 11090 Versailles Road. It's about a mile and a half from this property. I have two other properties that are within about 3/4 of a mile or half a mile from the property as well. And I've got 3 or 4 points to maybe 6, but I'll try to be brief on them. First of all, I've been around in the county, and my family has, to back from the time when there were no rules and regulations. And after we got past 50,000, 100,000 people, and so we've had to put rules and regulations to protect people like Mr. Brown that's moved in and other people. So the jobs of this and Planning Commission is to make sure that the people who have invested in the county, their rights to use their and their property is preserved. I have been out there since fifth generation on the same property out there, so I remember when the Hope Garrett place was sold, and I don't know if it's of any subsequence or not, but in the deeds when this was originally sold, there were restrictions put on all of these properties. Restrictions state that there are no residences to be built that are smaller than 1,100 square feet of indoor heated livings there, which would make their proposal of 550 or 600 in violation of the registered contract that went with that property. Now, I realize that the county does not enforce those deed restrictions. However, it would not be very prudent to approve something that was already a contract that would cause that to be in effect. I know because the county is not going to go in and do anything after the fact, but knowing about it ahead of time, and I've got the copies of those deed restrictions in there. Secondly, the 24-hour a day, 7 days a week. Y'all look at a lot of properties and a lot of things where people have, just recently y'all had some marriage counselors and y'all restricted the hours because of that. When you put a 24/7 on the neighbors, and as they were pointing out, the long narrowness of this, and a stage and all, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's kind of a rough thing to have out in the county. Very rarely have I ever seen any of those be approved. The experience to run one of these facilities, I happen to have personal in-family experience with dealing with some people that have these mental problems. And I'm going to tell you, when one of those people go off, you have a situation. So it requires a lot of experience and all to handle certain types of people that are in the drug habits industry. So I don't know what experience anybody has, but so far with what I haven't seen any of that. And finally, I would just hope that y'all would look at this as a good thing in theory, but to stick it in the neighborhood. I know they've talked about there being 30 homes that are down this strip, but the road goes around, there's Link Road, and it comes all the way around down Panther Creek, and there are about 60 houses and people that would be directly affected the way this property backs up. So it's a pretty good concern for a lot of people with noise and all of that abatement. So although conceptually it's a good idea, I would just hope that y'all would not approve this. But if you were to approve it, here's one thing that would ask. These small houses that they put up, what happens when this is not working anymore? Let's say they build 10 houses. And at some point, as with any industry or anything, I mean, this is not something that's going to run on forever. We just ask that maybe that there be put something in there that the money be escrowed to tear these down so we don't have 10 inexpensive rental houses. Because I know we look at a lot of times when somebody's wanting to put a mother-in-law house in or that, part of the deal is that they can't use these as rental places afterwards. So if it were going to get approved, there needs to be something put in that to make sure that after that we don't have a property with a small motel or something on it. Thank you.
Any questions? Ronald White, just any questions? Anyone else? We'll close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
I'll entertain a motion, then we'll have discussions on that motion.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to make a kind of a statement, then I'll make a motion. I want to make a motion. First of all, I just want to say, again, I guess I commend Mr. Meeks for what they want to do. I think he has maybe proposing a facility here that maybe we do need, but in my opinion, I don't think this is the appropriate area for it. One other thing I'd like to remind the board is, and I know we take everything on a case-by-case basis, but one application comes to my mind is, I think it was last year, we had an application that came before us that was somewhat similar to this. Actually, this was an established business that had actually been in towards the Smyrna area that was purchased and brung to on into Rutherford County, was the Swaim Center, and there was an application that they applied for on Vills Road, and we denied that based upon its rural setting and where it was at. I think they came back, I know they came back at a later date, and a new application, they applied in an industrial zone, and we approved that. So I know we take everything on a case-by-case basis, but I did want to remind everyone that with this right here came up, that remind me of that similar situation or similar application.
Did you have a motion on that?
I do. I'd like to make a motion that this application be denied based upon, I don't think it's the type of setting, but also I want to say that in reading in our thing, I think our staff has said that this application doesn't fails to meet all the general requirements for a special exception. So with that being said, I make a motion that it be denied.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Now, do we have some discussions on that? I would commend Mr. Meeks and his daughter. You did a fine presentation. I appreciate the way you all have handled yourself. I appreciate the way you've handled yourself. The subject matter is something I think that our community has really got to get involved in. It's a great opportunity for you all to work toward that. Also, I would like to commend those folks that are here and made your statements. We appreciate that very much. We are a growing city. We are a growing county. We've got a lot of people here, and we do have restrictions. Sometimes it bothers all of us to these restrictions, but we have to set to those. So at this time, I'll call on our recorder to call the roll, please. Have a motion and a second before us.
Keith Bratcher.
This is the motion is to deny, so yes would be for deny, right? Yes.
Joe Crowell.
Yes.
Joe Machoto.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
Dane Cantrell.
Yes. The
Motion
request is denied. Do we have any other business that comes before us?
Could I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
If I had a rag on my head and a pocket full of oil money, I bet this will roll right on through this committee.
Yeah. Thank you.
And Mr. Donosky.
Yeah. Thank you.
Rag on my head and a bunch of oil money, these people wouldn't even know.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments. We appreciate your support. Thank you very much. Do we have any other business? We are adjourned. Thank you.